And we were also really fortunate. We were able to, because all of us supporting a youth delegation out there, it was exciting to have them there. Cayanne and Alainn, they went there, learned a lot from them. They'd come back and share stuff. And so we're going to let them share with us what they experienced in Washington.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Cayanne Korder.
I'm Alainn Hanson.
We just wanted to start out by saying thank you. It's a really great opportunity, and especially for Alainn and I, we come from situations in our family where traveling's not the most our first choice for spring break. So it was a great opportunity. I am on the wrong.
It really meant a lot, so thank you. So when the conference started on Monday, we were immediately impressed with the amount of cities that were represented at the NLC. And at the youth conference, us talking with the other students that were there, it was very interesting to hear their experiences in their cities and the issues that they were dealing with and how they were dealing with them and how we could deal with similar issues in our cities or things that we could do to make it better and to get more youth involved. And we began the conference with a panel from international officials, which is very interesting to me because that's a field that I'm considering going into. And they talked about the inner workings of the UN and diplomacy in other countries and how you can get more involved and other opportunities that they have in the summer. So that was just a very interesting part of the conference for me. Mm-hmm.
And then beyond what the actual content of the conference was, I think the biggest thing Alainn and I took away from the conference was being able to talk to all the other youth councils from all over the states, so seeing those different perspectives. And it was interesting to hear that a lot of cities did have this youth council, so we tried to make some connections with a few different places. We had New York, Texas, Oregon,
North
Idaho.
Carolina.
Yeah. It was very interesting to see. And what was that one?
There was a girl from Oregon, and I was talking to her and said, I'm from Minnesota, and she was asking like, is it cold there, and all this other stuff. And she's like, it's in the center, right? And I was like,
didn't even know where Minnesota was.
Yeah, I was like, it's kind of center up, basically southern Canada, and where we are.
Yeah. So that was fun. So basically, we found out that these youth councils are usually about 15 to 20 members from high school ages.
Yeah.
They had
8 members on a board usually. It was a lot of times framed after their own city's councils.
Right. So the 6 to 8 members on the board were the ones they typically sent to the conference, and they met 1 to 2 times a month, some more frequently than that. I think I even met someone who met weekly, which was pretty interesting. And they split up into different kinds of committees. So they had the health and human services. They had one connection to school, but also I think that had to do with bullying as well. So that was interesting to learn about the different kind of things they were trying to enact in their cities. And one thing that was kind of interesting to see was the youth councils got to stand up and present these different ideas that they had and they were pushing in their cities, and they were able to receive some constructive criticism from the other youth councils as well as government professionals. So that was interesting. And then we were also able to do a little bit of sightseeing, and I had some pictures, but I don't know what's going on. So
yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, well, my favorite part was definitely the Lincoln Memorial, and we actually spent the whole day on Saturday kind of walking around with Marshall. We walked a lot, but it was really neat to be on the Capitol, right up by the Capitol, and watch the sunset with the Washington Memorial.
My favorite part for the sightseeing is we got to go to the Natural History Museum part of the Smithsonian, which we thought that was a good general because we could only go to one, so natural history. And it was really cool walking through and being able to see everything, because if any of you guys have seen the movie Night at the Museum, Smithsonian, it's cool walking through and being like, hey, look, that's the elephant that came to life.
Yeah.
There's the whale.
Yeah. Don't know. So that's...
So then our goals from what we took away from the conference would definitely be forming a Red Wing Youth Council, and if the youth council is ever able to go back to the NLC to then get constructive criticisms and reach out to these other youth councils to see what we can do better, get constructive criticism, like Cayanne said, on what we're doing, to get more kids involved in government or involved in the community, finding more constructive outlets for kids to participate in, and so that's kind of what we want to do with our takeaway from this conference. So.
Thank you. Any questions?
What year are you in?
I'm freshman, 9th grade.
Okay.
Junior.
And I'm sorry, you're a junior?
Junior.
Oh, terrific. Okay. Yeah.
Would you mind telling the council and the mayor what were there was a couple themes when it came to youth delegations and issues that are pertinent at this particular moment in time, what those issues are?
Well, they were kind of different for each city depending on what was the most important in that city. And a girl I met from Milwaukee, a big thing for them was dealing with diversity and how to get kids more educated and anti-bullying campaigns. Whereas in a kid I met from Alabama, infrastructure was the main thing that they were talking about and how to improve from there. So it differed from city to city, and then we talked about how you can bring those all together, and depending if you're a more urban or rural city. So
Yeah. That's the biggest things we heard. But the theme of the conference was mostly infrastructure, so I did think we talked a little bit about that. And we had kind of an interesting conversation about gun control as well, since that's such a prevalent part of the youth. So
yeah,
it's cool.
Other question? Dan?
I know that Cayanne, you've got a busy year coming up with youth government, but what's the next step in setting up a local youth conference?
The next step would, we were kind of wondering that as well. Who do we connect to if we want to sit down and really talk about kicking this off?
How to form it, what we can do.
We have some ideas we brought back, and we could even start compiling something, but we have an idea of what it might look like.
We had the opportunity to talk with the youth delegation directors when we're in DC, so we've made some connections. We've got,
and even in Minnesota, I have a couple of business cards. We can shadow a couple different councils here in Minnesota, which would be interesting.
So we've got access to, I think, some programs and somehow the documentation about how the programs are established, who's represented on the programs, how they go about doing their business, funding it. So we've got those kind of contacts, and we can get that information. I think is important. But the youth council is obviously going to require your participation, your support to go anywhere. So I think that's a large part of why we've got these two here, because they've got a lot of experience. And I've mentioned it before, we should be proud of these two through their activities in YIG. As I never fail to say, we've got the governor. We've got the governor here. Out of 1,500 youth, she was elected governor, and Alainn is also ran for office, was unsuccessful, but I'm sure will run again, and obviously participates and puts forth the effort in those programs to make a difference. We were interested in the youth perspective too. Did the youth delegations, were those folks involved in those youth feeling like they're making a benefit? And I think we heard back loud and clear that they felt like they were. So if the council and the mayor are interested in the program, we'd encourage that we continue that conversation to figure out a way to make it happen.
It's got my support.
Yeah, I think we ought to pursue it going forward. Yeah, particularly gather the models and figure out how they work. Yeah.
It sounds like it would be a nice fit with community engagement.
I'm excited to see where it can go. Having them there this year brought a whole different dynamic for me than just Sean and I being there and meeting with people. I want to talking to other youth as well, and hearing how they were involved in their cities, and that's what we need is young people involved in our cities so that they continue to be involved. So I'm excited about where we can go with this.
Oh, another conversation we had, and I guess I should bring it up. We talked about there are quite a few cities who were having a conversation about lowering the municipal voting age to 16, which was an interesting thought and not something.
Very controversial.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole youth conference.
Yeah.
With kids themselves. It's very interesting. So.
Yep.
But there actually were communities that had passed that, and they are allowing youth to vote at 16. So it was interesting. Very interesting. Yes.
So thank you.
Did Rochester have their whole council there?
Yeah, they had quite a few.
They had quite a few people. They were some of the people who said we could shadow them if we were planning on bringing a youth council here to learn how they formed theirs and take their ideas and put them here. So
they've been doing it for a while, and they got a pretty good program.
Yeah, we can tell.
Yes.
Very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very